we're going to start this interview with you telling about yourself, telling who you are, what you do, and then we're going to surf on the top of it.
Okay. So I'm Lena. People might know me as Gigahertz from social media. I am DevRel engineer at Celo Foundation. And in my work, I'm responsible for developer activation for Celo Foundation, for hackathons, for content, educational content, and just like to make sure we have a sustainable, thriving developer community that build amazing products on top of Celo. Yeah, that's what I do.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So very, very interesting. It is so many questions that I want to do. I think this conversation was so much kind of weighted that, it is overwhelming. Not the interview, but the amount of things I want to extract from your journey from many, many, many reasons. But one of them, it is the beauty to understand how a brand like Celo, a chain, it is kind of thriving in the midst of many, many others. And first question I have to you is, what is the choices that Celo is taking in which makes them grow a little bit slower to still to provide and continue with the mission that they are designing or they design for?
I have to say, I love working for Celo because like you said, like it's growing like a bit slower. I would say what I find really interesting and fascinating about Celo is they have really amazing tech built, and like I feel like many people don't know. Many people just think Celo is like an L1 that is becoming an L2 on the OP stack, but Celo already exists for more than 4 years. I think almost 5 years, right? Mm. And they built very fast, very cheap technology with a focus on the global majority. So like since the beginning, they had the user experience in mind when I think nobody was talking about it, right? Like, how can you actually build technology for the global majority? It needs to be very fast, cheap, that you can maybe sponsor transaction fees, right? We had since the beginning phone number mapping. So what are wallet addresses? Like, who is comfortable with wallet addresses? You now have to copy them because if you would miswrite anything, you send money to the wrong address, right?
Yeah.
But imagine you can just send money from one phone number to another. That's what we know. That's like mobile money. That's, I think, in a lot, like here in Portugal, we have MBWay. Yeah. That's kind of like the same user experience. So like people don't even have to know they are interacting with Web3. And I think that is really interesting. Celo also has focused since the beginning on stablecoins. So like you can pay gas fees not only in the native currency Celo, but also in stablecoins. So I think for a lot of people, again, onboarding them to Web3 and explaining them what are native tokens, what are stablecoins, very confusing. So I think always the best example is MiniPay, that is like a stablecoin wallet where you just send money from phone number to phone number. It only has like one of the best user interfaces any wallet has in Web3. And you just send stablecoins. Like the users don't have to know and understand anything. And I think that's very crucial when you're building for like scalable applications and like the numbers. I'm kind of like advertising now, but it's just like I'm a fan. I'm just a really I'm a huge fan, and like it's like that's the reason why we have like more than 5 million users in like a year. And it's really cool. Like when I traveled to Kenya, I didn't need to take out any money. And also people don't take money because they have mobile money. So like it's very common. So I could just like charge my wallet with crypto and then pay in the mobile money M-Pesa there. And nobody knew I was like paying in crypto, right? Because it was like the very seamless off-ramping. And I think Celo has always focused on like building out a huge on and off-ramp infrastructure to provide exactly that experience. Like there's even projects where you can off-ramp not even through the internet, but like for phones that don't even have like not even smartphones, right? Mm-hmm. And if you imagine that is financial inclusion.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing is beautiful. I think you guys are doing a great job. And it was what some brands, Wallace was trying to decode here. We had hosted here just like Wallet Connect, Wallet Con, together. By the time it was Wallet Connect, funded by a Portuguese, but now CEO Jess, she's doing a great job. She managed to organize those 2 hackathons in 2024, if I'm not mistaken. And the challenge was exactly to make the use of the wallets in a consensus with all the major players, that to also sponsor some gas fee in the transaction, so make the user journey more easy and more accessible. But I think for Celo is a matter of existing or not, because I think, as I understood Celo, it is to democratize access to, financial instruments.
Yeah, and I feel like what you said earlier, like it's growing slower, but I feel like also Celo has not followed all the trends of NFTs and so on, right? Celo always had this mission of like building for real world use cases, and I feel like while a lot of other protocols has dabbled in this and that and sometimes lost focus, I feel like the vision was always very clear, and that was like also the focus of what is being developed. And now you can see the success, and I feel like it's really rewarding to like see, okay, this is like people believed in something that is not shiny or something like crazy DeFi or liquid staking yield on top of yields, right? So I think obviously it is important, like yield is important for like any kind of like financial tools, and I'm not saying that we don't want to have that on Celo and we don't want our users to build on top of that. I'm just saying that can come later when you have the users and like when you have the infrastructure to on-ramp people, and I feel like that was very well thought out by the founders of Celo.
Recently, I kind of was talking to some people from Solana, and I was trying to kind of to tell them a little bit about regenerative, and to people to kind of engage a little bit. And I tried this conversation also with Polygon, and I mean, for sure they need to kind of to bring what they do more intelligible for the audience beyond Web3. But in my perspective, I think the decision to create something more democratized, or something more not just this hippie stuff about environmental, but to create something that is both transactional and intentional, they most of the time they refuse, and I see they guide themselves pretty much on the developer community. Just like if the developer community is not herding on some topic, or don't find something so let's say sexy, they cannot kind of be bold enough to say, hey, we need to kind of do some more tools for the SDGs or something like that. They're pretty much kind of only oriented to communicate with the devs itself, and with not so much enthusiasm to make their tools intelligible for people outside of the bubble. And here where lays my question that I'm going to do to you. What is the profile of the devs from Celo, or the community of Celo? What they share in terms of life mission and purpose? Are they different? They go to Celo somehow because they want to use technology, but they also want to use technology with some type of intention and purpose?
I would say the Celo developer community is very special and very specific because, yes, I mean, everybody, like many people know Celo for the ReFi context, like focus on regenerative finance and building sustainable products. So I think most people that come into the blockchain space to build with any kind of impact, they would see Celo as the first place to go to. The developers that I work with and there was always a focus of like how Celo built out the developer communities, is a very global approach. We had always like a huge ambassador system. We have regional DAOs in LATAM, in Africa, in India, and in the Philippines, in Thailand. Like we have a lot of regional DAOs also in Europe, and they are very crucial for building out the on-the-ground communities. Because if you build for the global majority, you don't want to have like a few people sitting in Europe building for the global majority. They won't understand what kind of projects are needed, right? For like building real-world use cases, we need to have builders from the regions that we want to build apps in to understand what is needed. And So we want people to build for their communities, and that's the infrastructure we try to provide with very accessible developer and simple developer experience. But also in the end, you need a lot of that. That is my experience with HerDAO, with Celo. Is on the ground support is very needed for a strong developer community. I think Solana is doing an amazing job with the super team. They have been working for years on that, and you can see that is one of the reasons why they are now so high on the Electric Capital report. And so I would say most builders that I work with, they are in Africa, they are in Latam, in India, and it's amazing builders. And I feel for me it was such a learning experience because sometimes I had hackathon projects and I didn't really understood them, and then somebody else, I was like, can you please explain that to me? Because you don't understand until you go. And I had the chance to go last year. And I think Celo has been doing an amazing job of creating this ecosystem where people also really understand. A lot of chains sometimes are still looking for the narrative, and for Celo it's very clear. You build for actual users, and you have access to these users through apps like Valora and MiniPay.
That's amazing. And can you tell me something that from Celo, in which you see that both kind of corporates or those big players kind of look and say, this is intentional and transactional, so we can really earn a lot of money, but also in the way we can do things in the right way. Do you have any use case or any sparkling kind of perception of a project in which people can look and say, oh wow, people from big corporates, governments can look and say, this is governments. I think that's not so much what the question I want to give right now, but if there is some big corporates, so highly investors looking for something that Celo is building, that it is doing the right stuff, regen and etc., while also helping them to optimize their infrastructure using blockchain, etc.
I mean, the best example is probably MiniPay that I was talking about. It's actually built by Opera. It's one of the biggest browsers worldwide. And for example, in Africa, most people have mobile phones. Opera has more than 80 million phones.
Wow.
So they are exploring blockchain technology. Not only they have a huge infrastructure for content providers that write articles, and they start paying them in stablecoins, and then they use the MiniPay wallet. And I think this collaboration, you see a lot of collaborations. I think in the last year we have seen more or less successful collaborations of huge Web2 companies with blockchains, and most of the time it was more like a PR stunt. And I think in that context you can see this is Opera as one of the first browsers. You have Brave browser with the browser wallet, and it's working more or less. I don't know, I'm not using it. It's not so easy to use.
Good.
They did this step, and they were we want to explore this next step. And Celo was the right choice for them because we provide this infrastructure that a lot of other chains that would need a lot of more infrastructure building or complexity right now, that we just deliver out of the box.
That's super interesting. If I'm not mistaken, just like in some economies, whenever you kind of give power to people, power to buy, to sell, identity as well, I think is something that is problematic in countries like, if I'm not mistaken, just like El Salvador, or in countries that is under war or refugees or etc., in which identity and money is something complex. But talking about emerging economies in which has these big social gaps, and people are not on the map because they really cannot go to the city centers to get an ID, and can get it through blockchain, and has access to wallets or banks in an easy way. Let's say you somehow including people on this map of economy in a scale that is sometimes forgotten about the ongoing system is in my vision, you confirm me if I'm wrong, is quite beneficial to move the economy more and more instead of excluding them. Right?
Yeah, because I mean, if you look at it, maybe not everybody has a passport, but almost everybody has a phone, or not. I would say even if it might not be a smartphone. So imagine like your phone number, which is integrated into our protocol, can be kind of used as your identifier, and still most banks, a lot of software still uses your phone number as kind of an identifier, right? So
Yes.
I think that's
amazing. And I heard that Celo has right now some incentives, grants for people to. You think there is some more effort to convince the devs to go and build on Celo by some reason, because maybe it's more expensive than nodes, or
I think the reasons why you would build on Celo is, first of all, as I already explained, the infrastructure. I think one of the things that we definitely want to highlight is our focus on AI agents. Like, we've already started working with Olas in the last year, but I think, like many other chains, we understand that this will just improve, first of all, the user experience. I think Vitalik said it very well in his first article about, like, the biggest chance for AI agents will be user experience. And I think especially for onboarding people, who wants to click themselves through, like, I don't know how many steps to do one transaction or something, right? And suddenly you have an agent, you have a chat interface. Like, AI agents will be the new websites, as like the Eliza founder says. And I think we just, like last week, it was our new initiative CX AI was launched. So I would say if you're building with AI, that Celo is a great place to do that.
Just going to the end of our interview, but for sure we need to have another interview, since you live here in Lisbon. We need to.
We didn't talk about HerDAO, no?
By the way, but we will. And by the way, let's say that we are running to the end of conversation, but it's not the end, no? So what I was interested to understand right now is, my question was more towards your life mission as a person. If you are there already as a person that is doing what you want to do, and then if HerDAO is part of this journey of discovery, or if you got there already.
Yeah, I think I said what I do right now. I didn't say how I came to where I am right now. So I think I studied computer science. I wrote my thesis about ethical AI, and I realized, wow, the AI space is very fucked up. Like, there are so many biases. Like, but a lot of the infrastructure is already built, and we're building on top of a lot of technology that has been built by a very small, homogenic group of people for a very, like, global community. And then I discovered blockchain, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. Like, this is so young. We can actually, like, it's still being built, so we can actually, like, change something. And the first year, I think a lot of people here started Web3 during COVID, and me too. So I was just like, for a year, I was just like, every evening after work, I was hanging in study groups with women. Like, I started out just learning Web3 surrounded by women. We talked about the women's spaces earlier with Omji. I actually believe they are very crucial for people to enter. I think they are less seen as, like, this is a separation, but more like a safe space to enter, to then explore and have the confidence to, like, branch out and enter with the knowledge and the confidence needed to enter this very male-dominated space.
Yeah, I agree. It's a smooth entry,
exactly.
Soft entry.
And it's sometimes needed, because otherwise you lose so many people, and they just get scared, even if they would be great contributor. And
even myself, just like when I am transition from sometimes willing to learn another things on my 20 years of tech, it is scary. Just like imagine if you are green, let's say, like that, and willing to learn some new technology.
So to come back, like, I took part in study groups, then I led the study groups. Then I met the HerDAO people who were, like, not yet officially, like, they just, like, launched HerDAO. And then we all got we brought 150 women to Denver, which is happening now. So it's like a 3-year anniversary almost.
Wow, congratulations. Round of applause to wake up our audience. 3 years of HerDAO?
3 years of HerDAO. And it's actually where I met Doris. So Doris and me, we're going to have on Friday, we're going to have a little breakfast on Valentine's Day to celebrate our friendship, because we met in Denver, and on Valentine's Day we went for a drink. And that's how we became
amazing.
Friends. And so I heard about that many women, and then I just, like, took ownership. I was like making sure people would go to the hackathon and attend, and I took part and I won, and it was really cool. And then I just moved into HerDAO, and I took on to like the whole hackathon management, like organize hackathons, make sure our scholars attend hackathons. Like I think HerDAO is, for everybody who doesn't know, HerDAO, it's like the longest existing female developer DAO in the space. We had more than 800 scholars, a lot of money won in like you see sometimes money being, or you feel like so much money is thrown away or around in the space, and with that, we're trying to make sure that some of that money is going to like women, to like their empowerment, to their education, and for them to like grow in the space. And now it's like actually like the 4th generation of stewards just started, the 2nd time that they have been voted by the community. And it's really beautiful to see like how it evolved. Right now there's like 3 different boot camps that have been launched, like one in Africa, one in Latam, and the second one in Africa, I think. Like they are doing amazing work. They have a lot of regional chapters, around 16, and they are doing exactly what we were talking about earlier with OMG. And I was in the beginning, I was at HerDAO, like just coming back to your question. At one point, I think I learned, I contributed my part. It was very beautiful. It was very exhausting, and I think you as a person who does community building, who does a lot, gives a lot.
Yes.
First of all, it's very hard to like constantly make sure you have kind of a budget, which we didn't have. And also onboarding people is sometimes the most ungrateful job in the world. It's beautiful and it gives you so much back, but it's also like it takes a lot of energy. So it's good to see that we have generations of women who take on this job, and when they finish, they move into the protocol. So now we have women in Arbitrum, in Optimism, in Starknet. We have like all over the industry in the big protocols. I have my friends, and that's really cool. I would say, and like I know people, and it's amazing to see the success. But I moved on. I think it was important to like make space for other people. And I would say, to your question, if I feel like I reached a point of
Wow,
like,
you remember? Wow. Yes.
I would say going to conferences, I see a lot more women. In DevCon, there was, for example, I think 150 people from Africa. I was not responsible for that. Like that's not, I feel like we see a little bit of a change. There's still a lot more change and like a lot more opportunities enabled for people, a lot more spaces created, a lot more work needs to be done. So I feel like right now I really love where I am, and I feel like it's an amazing work that I can do with Celo.
That's amazing. I can see that you are somehow already aligned a little bit with your true self and your life mission and purpose. That's very cool to see. I also see that you are putting some effort to engage other women into the tech, to do the right thing, and it's interesting how you acknowledge and accept the cycle of things without judging yourself. I say, okay, I lived through that. Now, come on, giving to somebody else, because it's indeed very, very time consuming. But it is beautiful that you invested so much time, sometimes maybe choosing to be in a more slow pace environment, but trying to do maybe sometimes going slower, but carrying more people with you and creating more waves. You know, we in this life, we're never going to understand how our interaction kind of can, in a compound way, influence and change something. It is, I think, in my opinion, it is super interesting that you find your true self, remove the expectations of societal, religion, family, and run in the direction of what's the essence in which is built inside. And this is so cool to see you in your journey. I am a fan. Please have the stage for latest remark or shameless promotion.
I think the only thing that I always just want to tell people is like, do hackathons. They are the best way to learn about Web3 if you're new. And I think in these times, some people might lose hope or like might turn their back on the Web3 space. it's good. There are spaces that can give you hope, and I feel like that make you aware that there's already like a lot of work that has been done, and there are success stories, and they are sometimes not shared loudly enough. But I think, especially like looking at the Celo ecosystem, and also at the work that DAO has been doing, and like without my I've not been too active the last year. There is change happening if you look at the right corners, and I think that can give us all like when it sometimes can feel like financial freedom for who? Is it just for the people who don't want to pay taxes? Like we can see that it's actually like there are good use cases and people are working in the right direction.
Amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, with you, Lena, round of applause. Was such a amazing pleasure to have you here. For sure, we need to kind of continue the conversation next time.
Always happy.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much for creating a lovely environment.